You would have seen a number of scare stories earlier reported this year to do with vaccination rates in New Zealand, particularly with children, I have to say, and the fear from public health officials in general and general practitioners that they were seeing kids that, well, frankly, they shouldn't be seeing if they'd been immunised at an early age, and what the consequent strains might be upon the New Zealand health system, and particularly for those kids, with some of them, the ongoing health effects that are there. But they have all mentioned, if you like, not so much a resistance as the word wouldn't be so much resistance because I don't think it's an active act, as an indifference. That's a better word to describe it, Michael. Towards the blandishments for New Zealanders to keep up vaccination in this country. And as I said, in the last couple of weeks, I've got 3 from my local GP, one for COVID booster, one for a flu booster, and one for shingles, which apparently I'm entitled to have all 3 of them for free. And to be honest with you, I am a lazy bugger at the best of times, but you know, I might get the flu one, but I might not. Because it's my experience in the past that I've had the flu jab and still caught the flu, and I know they say, well, it's not as bad as it was, but it was pretty bad, so I'm not sure they got vaccinated against the right strain, to be honest with you, and did I get something else?
You've got pseudoephedrine now as well, so that helps.
I've also got my pseudoephedrine, and that's all I need. That's all I need. In addition to which, and I'm stocked up, mate. You should see me. I could start selling to the mongrel mob at the moment. Can I also say too, Josh? It's not just that. It's that in terms of vaccinations, I don't like needles, Josh. I don't know if you know that. I really don't like them.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same, to be honest.
I'll do my very, very best to avoid them, and I do not understand why, in the time that I've been alive on this planet, we are living in an incredible technological age, they haven't come up with a bloody option for the needle. I do not understand
I know,
that.
it's just ridiculous.
What the hell's the story? On Star Trek, they give you a little thing that goes there and nobody feels anything. Why haven't we got there? I thought that was bloody obvious.
See,
no?
I hated them, and then I ended up in hospital for a month, and
you end up as a pincushion.
Yeah, basically.
I know. I know. You see? Listen, I will die because I do not like having injections. I am sure that I will hasten my demise as a consequence. I wonder how many other people feel like me. But anyhow, talking about this, I'm also noting the number of people who died last week of COVID. And once upon a time, we would have had their entire life history, who their family were, where they were being buried, and probably a whole series of DDT or antibiotics or antihistamine, I don't know, whatever you could have thrown at and put all around the body just in case it didn't escape. Now, barely a mention on the Department of the Ministry of Health's website. Well, has this affected the COVID reactions and vaccinations, etc., and 2 inquiries, as has said, one finished, one underway, our general aversion towards vaccination in this country? Joining us to talk about that is the Associate Professor at the University of Auckland and a co-director of the Global Vaccine Data Network. I'm going to have to ask about that again. Helen Petousis-Harris, and she joins us now. Helen, lovely to have you on again. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Do you like needles?
I think I agree with you about the needles. I'm a needle folk too.
Why hasn't there been an alternative? What the hell is science doing?
We've got the Star Trek stuff. Do you know we had it since the 60s and 70s, and they're really cool now. Little jet injectors.
Well, why don't I get those instead of a needle?
Oh, I know. I think complexities, but the tech's there.
Yeah. Well, all I know is. Anyway. So you're saying the technology exists for me to have a vaccination other than through an invasive needle. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And we've got patches too. So the tech's there. But then I guess when you sort of scale it up and then try to make it like have one of the machines that you need to administer, etc. It works for things like military and things like that. They've used it in the Defence Forces to just go bam, 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 bam down the lines.
That's just dreadful. Well, it's great that it's theirs, but I don't understand why I can't get it. Listen, I remember the last time I talked to you, a couple of things from that conversation, but the first thing was that you're co-director of the Global Vaccine Data Network. Explain it to me last time. What is that again, please?
That came out of wanting to do studies that were really big with lots of people to look at really rare events following vaccines, things that are really hard to unpack or look at in any single population. So it's a sort of a collaboration of about, I think we were 32 countries worldwide and hundreds of millions of people. So with all of that, and if everybody is using the same protocols, etc., and essentially performing the same study, you've got massive power to look at really rare things, and also unpack those like different schedules and different vaccines and different combinations of vaccines.
Okay. And how's it going? I mean, what are you learning that will be of applicability and use to New Zealand?
It's been going really, really super well. Fair to say that it's being now impacted by events in the US, etc. But for example, we published a study beginning of last year that had 99 million people looking at a whole range of different potential adverse events after vaccines, and looking at if there was increased risk or increased events occurring after exposure to vaccines, for example. And we've got 3 publications coming up which are looking at, there's the whole myopericarditis one, there's Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a really rare event, and there's the blood clotting one that we saw with the viral vector vaccines, and also something called vaccine-mediated enhanced disease, which has not been seen, but always something that is good to look at. So
Oh, that's good. So you're looking at the adverse effects of
Mm.
vaccine and being able to quantify it, and then hopefully address how it happens as well, I presume.
Yeah, there's also a genomics component. So
Yeah, I thought
collecting spit samples, spit for science,
Yeah.
to look at identifying genes that might predispose someone to having these things occur.
And the reverse, surely. Janet here, so she's trying to convince me that she's never had a vaccine in her life, and she's been as fit as a fiddle. She says she's never had the flu. Now, let's just suggest that she's telling the truth at 72 years of age. Might there be some people with genomes that are very, very healthy, and we might like to breed them because they are resistant to these sorts of viruses?
Mm. Absolutely. Some people are blessed with the most incredible immune systems, and identifying people who are resistant absolutely is just as important as people who are susceptible. So yes, we'd like to then you want to package it up, or essentially what you'll be able to do is design drugs and medicines, not just vaccines, that are less likely to have these events occur, but are also more effective for those people who, and of course you don't know if it's going to be you, do you?
No.
And of course, the reason people don't have experience.
Yeah, that's right. But that's
things.
why what you're doing is important. And good on you. I can see great value in that for the public health of all New Zealanders. Listen, talking about vaccine resistance at the moment, we know we're looking at the figures at the moment. I think I looked at the Immunisation Advisory Centre are saying that vaccinations off right throughout New Zealand. We're not just talking about COVID here. We're talking about right across the spectrum. Have you got some initial ideas as to why that might be?
Yeah, it is a little multifactorial, but there's the reduction in services or access to services for some people. It just gets harder. There is perhaps a lack of the memo getting out. And then, of course, there is the impact of the overwhelming amount of information, and also the disinformation and the misinformation. And together, it's sort of a bit of a recipe for disaster. Lack of trust.
I'll come back to that last one in a second, but the first one's interesting. We're now reading that people have to spend up to 2 weeks to get access to their GP if they've got a problem. Is that part of the issue here, that health, because it's not usually GPs that do the vaccination, it's usually their nurses, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. So you need to make an appointment, usually with your general practice, and they are overwhelmed. They're under so much pressure. So you can wait for a long time to get in. And then maybe you have to defer because baby's sick or whatever, life, etc. You've also got to be able to actually physically get there, and that can be really difficult for people as well.
Yeah, I can see
There
that.
are pharmacies that are helping to plug some of this, but in the end, it does become a bit of a mammoth effort.